past week I've been vlogging daily here on the farm. I've been digging perennials, starting seed, taking cuttings, mulching, planting hardy annuals out in the field and much more. Each day I've been asking you for your feedback on what I should include on this, my final episode of the week. Overwhelmingly, I received a lot of comments about pest management and soil health, and conveniently these fit together quite nicely, so I'm going to cover what I know about these topics in this video today. Over the years I've listened to hundreds of hours of podcasts, probably thousands actually, read many books and attended conferences and been on courses and workshops too. But this topic is still very broad and there's a lot of research still yet to do, so I'm going to compile what I know in this video, and I'm also going to be putting some links down in the description, so if you want to find out more for yourself then I will share with you some of my favourite resources. But here's the lowdown: minimising plant stress, maximising diversity and focusing on soil and plant health is going to yield the best results. In this video I'm going to explain what can cause plant stress and how to minimise it, as well as how to create balance and diversity on our farms and in our gardens. First of all, let's consider why pests occur. I think having a good understanding of this will alter your perspective of how you perceive pests in the garden and how you go on to manage them. Pests are present in nature to maintain balance. They are essential to the functioning of life as we know it, and in nature everything has a purpose. Pests clean up weak members of the environment and they prevent the build-up of waste and disease. They ensure the strongest members of the ecosystem prevail. Plants that are unhealthy or stressed will emit signals which pests will be able to detect. Pests find these sick and unhealthy plants palatable. However, the healthy plants will not emit these signals and will not be edible to the pests. This means that healthy plants that are thriving in their environment will go on to produce seeds and the next generation. The unhealthy plants don't get the opportunity to do so because they are emitting the signals and getting eaten by the pests, so they don't get the opportunity to produce offspring for the next generation. You might know this as survival of the fittest. Plants might become unhealthy and stressed for a variety of reasons. Some of those are nutrient imbalances, inadequate light levels, heat stress, salinity, physical damage and drought. So what can we do to prevent our plants from becoming stressed and unhealthy and ultimately sending those signals out to the pests to come and clear them up? Firstly, it's worth remembering that it's not always within our control to prevent stress, but we can do our best with what we have available to us. To prevent pests from attacking our plants, we want to do whatever we can to promote the health of the plants and the environment around it. So let's start by looking at plant stress. When thinking about plant stress, think about how you might feel if you are stressed yourself. You are more likely to have a reduced immune system and get a cough or a cold. And it's exactly the same for our plants. So here's my tips on reducing plant stress. Pot plants on in a timely manner so they're not spending too much time in cells or in pots that they have outgrown. Sow seeds at the right time in the recommended way, and therefore the seedlings are going to get off to the best start in life. Reduce heat and light stress by moving seedlings from the greenhouse as soon as they are ready to be moved outside. If you're experiencing really hot temperatures or really cool temperatures, then you can either shade the greenhouse or provide some extra protection with horticultural fleece or some bubble wrap on your seed trays. Keep plants well watered but not overwatered. Many minerals and nutrients are water soluble, and if plants aren't receiving adequate water then they are not able to take up these minerals and nutrients, and therefore they are going to suffer with mineral or nutrient deficiencies. Excess water is an obvious one as well. Plants need oxygen around their roots, so if you are constantly providing lots of water then they are not able to breathe, so make sure you're letting your plants dry out in between each watering. Reduce transplant shock by hardening off your plants before you put them into the ground. You can do this by putting them outside for about a week or so during the day and then bringing them in on an evening. If you want to go a step further, you can soak them in some bio-stimulants, some compost extracts. I'm going to cover these later on in the video, but all of these things help to reduce stress once the plant is in the ground. If you wanted to go the extra mile, you could also put on your plants using a soil mix that contains some of your native soil, and the plants are going to get used to what is in and around that native soil, and once you plant it out into the ground it's not going to be such a big change and shock for them. Make sure you add plenty of organic matter to your soil, which is going to mean that lots of nutrients are going to be cycled by the microbes and passed back to your plants, and that is going to give them what they need to grow nice, strong and healthy. Chemical fertilizers are typically designed so that the nutrients are forced into the plant, and this can create some imbalances which might attract pests. As well as adding organic matter, try to disturb the soil as little as possible. The life in the soil is very delicate and it takes a long time to build, so minimise disturbance where you can. Remember, nature is a very delicate balance and you might not be able to control all of the variables involved. For example, your neighbour could have sprayed some Roundup on his garden, or they could have removed all of the trees, which removes a lot of the pest predators and beneficial organisms that you might have around. The plants that you received from a nursery might have been getting fed with a chemical fertiliser and you are unknowingly weaning them off it. So like I said, it's not always within our control, but we can help the plants to the best of our ability. Another great way to create balance in the ecosystem and in and around your growing area is to provide a diverse array of habitats. For example, you might want to create a pond for frogs and toads that are going to come and eat the slugs and snails that you have around. You might want to put up bird feeders that are going to attract birds that are going to eat insects that are in and around your plants. Another great one is growing cover crops, or setting aside an area of your growing space to grow cover crops or some beneficial plant mixes so that you can attract pollinators and predatory organisms that are going to work alongside your crops and help you to fight those pests off. Cover crops not only benefit your nearby plant by attracting these organisms, but they also help below the ground as well. And it's good to have a diverse mix of cover crop species which have different root types, and these different root types are going to perform different functions in the soil, attract different microbes, and hopefully they will help to create a really healthy soil system, as well as the benefits they have above ground. Another couple of ways to attract beneficial insects and organisms is to create a bug hotel, something I'm yet to do here on the farm actually, and also just to leave some weedy areas set aside. I know not all of us like to have weeds visible on our plots, but actually they are really beneficial, especially things like nettles, etc. I like to say that my weedy area at the back of the polytunnel here is purposefully done, and I'm leaving it for the beneficial organisms. Another thing that I've done quite a bit of here on the farm is tree planting. I like to provide a variety of different tree habitats for the various beneficial organisms that might like to come and live upon them and around them. So the key really is diversity, diversity, diversity. So if you can put as many of those things into place as you can, then hopefully you'll be attracting a diversity of insects and predators too. One way that I really like to boost plant health here on the farm is by feeding with biostimulants and living inoculants. Biostimulants stimulate natural processes, increase stress tolerance, enhance nutrient uptake and utilisation. Living inoculants can also be classed as biostimulants, as some microbes have the same effects on plants. Living inoculants allow us to place beneficial organisms in and around the plants, which can help protect it from pests and diseases. Some examples of biostimulants include liquid seaweed, humic and fulvic acids, fish hydrolysates and molasses. A living inoculant would be something like a compost extract or a compost tea. Composts that have been made well are going to be full of beneficial organisms that are going to be great for our plants. If we make a compost extract and apply it to our plants in liquid form, then we are coating the leaves, the soil and the roots in all of those beneficial organisms, and it's going to be way more difficult for the pathogenic organisms to take hold. I do have another video all about this and I'll link that one down in the description. I also like to practice diversity in my plant feeding schedule, so I'm not always feeding the same thing week on week. I'm usually mixing it up a little bit to make sure the plants are getting a little bit of my homemade inoculants and biostimulants. I often call upon liquid seaweed, water-soluble calcium, willow water, molasses, worm compost extract, homemade compost extract, fish hydrolysate and other natural and homemade products. When making a compost extract, all I do is I take a handful of compost, I place it in a mesh bag and agitate it in a bucket of dechlorinated water, which could be rainwater or water with humic acid added into it, and I use that to spray onto the plants. One thing I really want to emphasise is that you should practice patience before you react. Sometimes you will get a flare-up of pests, it's only natural, and it might be something that you have caused, or it might be nothing to do with any of the practices that you implement on your farm or in your garden. Most of the time when I notice a pest on some of my plants, then I will wait it out and see if a predator will arrive. Usually the presence of a pest will trigger a predator to react, but but it does require a little bit of patience. And all of the things that I mentioned earlier about providing habitats for predatory organisms to dwell will really help in this scenario, because hopefully those predatory organisms will already be there and will react as soon as a pest arrives. So I hope that gives you some insight into how I deal with pests here on the farm. I'm usually very chill about it, and instead of worrying or panicking about pests, I make my focus all about soil and plant health, and also learning from my mistakes and observations. If you have any further questions, please pop them down in the comments and I'll do my best to get back to you on them. I've also linked some of my other daily vlogs in the description, as well as lots of other resources, so if you want to check those out, they will be down in the description. Thanks so much for watching again, and I'll see you on the next one.